Hello and welcome to today's MJ News Digest, December 16, 2020. It's been a while, but fear not, I'm back. Here are today's headlines. MJ estate wins appeal. J5 anniversary. MJ not to the greatest American. Thriller session secrets. New MJ boxing musical. Separating MJ and his art. MJ lights up Xmas. And MJ cast versus the Michael album. But of course, the news we've all been talking about. Michael Jackson estate wins appeal in lawsuit over HBO's Leaving Neverland. This is from NBC.com and it's gained traction over quite a few news sources. So let's have a look at this. There's loads of legalese in this article, so bear with. An appeals court on Monday handed a victory to the estate of Michael Jackson in its battle over the 2019 HBO documentary Leaving Neverland. The Jackson estate sued HBO for $100 million, arguing that the documentary violated a 27-year-old non-disparagement clause from a 92 concert film, and HBO argued that the clause was irrelevant. Last year, a lower court granted the estate's motion to take the dispute to arbitration as provided by the contract. HBO appealed, but on Monday, a three-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal upheld the lower court ruling. The contract contained a broad arbitration clause that covers claims that HBO disparaged Jackson in violation of ongoing confidentiality obligations. The panel ruled, "We may only identify whether the parties agree to arbitrate such claims." HBO had sought to avoid arbitration, saying that the network had never intended to grant Jackson and his heirs a veto over anything the network might ever want to say about him. The network's attorney, Theodore Boutros, also argued that the 92 contract had effectively expired. The panel, Circuit Judges Richard Paez and Lawrence Van Dyke and District Judge Karin Immergut, rejected that argument. An arbitration clause can still bind the parties even if the parties fully performed the contract years ago. So yes, I'm not entirely sure what all of that means, but I know that it's a victory for Michael Jackson and the MJ estate. It does say that the network could appeal the panel's ruling to the full Ninth Circuit or make its arguments in front of an arbitrator, but it's good news. Another win for Michael Jackson. Our next story from Prime Timer. The Jackson 5 debuted on the Ed Sullivan Show 51 years ago today. This was originally published on Monday the 14th, so a couple of days ago, but 51 years ago. Wow. So it says here on December 14, 1969, 51 years ago, it was the Jackson 5's turn to make their debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon and Michael performed a medley, leading off with Sly and the Family Stone's hit Stand, before going into Smokey Robinson's Who's Loving You, and ending with their first #1 hit song, I Want You Back. Can you believe 51 years? Now, I'm not of age to have been around at the time when this was first broadcast, but obviously as an MJ fan, I've seen this performance hundreds of times. But just seeing this article and seeing this photo, this thumbnail, just reminds me of how precious time is. It seems that, time just goes in the blink of an eye, and it's really it's important for us all to make the most of the time that we have. And this photo, especially, just looking at it, looking at Michael's expression, his eyes, you can see the hope in his face, the hope for the future. And what a future this child had. He turned out to be an amazing man. What a legacy he left behind. He's still inspiring countless of people, even years after his death. So, on to Showbiz cheat sheet. Who ranked higher on Greatest American? Oprah, oh dear, or Elvis Presley? Now, there's quite a few things wrong with that headline. First of all, shouldn't Michael Jackson be on a Greatest American list? And really, should Oprah Winfrey be on there? Some would say Elvis Presley shouldn't, but he was culturally very important. So, Elvis and Oprah are two American celebrities so huge. They were ranked in the top 10 of the Discovery Channel's list of the Greatest Americans. The list was released on the 4-part docuseries The Greatest American in 2005. Who ranked higher? And how did Oprah and the King of Rock and Roll compare to other American icons? Now, obviously, it's important to keep this into context of the time of 2005. Obviously, it wasn't a particularly good year for Michael, but I would still expect to see Michael in the list. Interestingly, the majority of the top 10 was made up of political figures. Ronald Reagan was #1, which I find quite bizarre. Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, I think he should be a bit higher. George Washington, George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. So what about the entertainer part of this? So it says the 8th spot on the list could belong to its highest ranked entertainer, Elvis. Elvis remains one of the most famous American rockers, but Oprah was just one spot below him at number 9. It's unbelievable. And also Elvis and Oprah were ranked higher than Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most esteemed American president, who was number 10. So obviously Michael wasn't in the top 10. And I guess, as I said, 2005, that could have been expected. But I wanted to find out more. It does just quickly say here that actually at this time Elvis was receiving millions of streams less than David Bowie, the Beatles and Michael Jackson. That's the only mention of Michael that I could find on this article, but I wanted to see more about this list. Now obviously it was a TV show, but head over to The Guardian and we have the top 20. So we've covered the top 10. Let's have a look at the top 20. Number 11, Billy Graham. Number 18, Bill Gates, and number 20, look at that, Lance Armstrong as the 20th most important American or greatest American. Dear me, that didn't age well, did it? It'd be interesting to see if this poll was done now, where Michael Jackson would figure in this. I'm not necessarily saying that Michael Jackson should be number 1. That might be quite controversial, but he definitely deserves to be in the top 3 of the greatest Americans of all time. What are your thoughts on that? So over to San Diego magazine. This is cool. In the ring with professional boxer Paul Vaden. Is that how you pronounce it? I know some of you will correct me if I'm wrong. So there is Paul Vaden. There's a photo there of a professional boxer, and I'm highlighting that especially for you YouTubers who think that Jake Paul or Logan Paul are professional boxers. They are not. This is what a professional boxer looks like. He has dedicated his life to his art and his craft. And there he is in most recent times. So got that out of the way. Let's get to the Michael Jackson reference. This is cool. So right at the bottom, what's this about you working on a musical play about boxing? And Paul says, yes, I've been working on it for years. I love music, especially Michael Jackson. I don't want to give too much away, but I've always been fascinated by the idea of doing a boxing musical. Isn't that interesting? So it seems as though this boxer is working on a boxing musical, and perhaps it's going to feature music from Michael Jackson, because he's saying, I love music, especially Michael Jackson. Maybe I'm just putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5. I doubt this is anything to do with the MJ estate, MJ musical that's coming next year. So I'd find it very unlikely that there would be a Michael Jackson boxing musical. But thinking about that, what kind of songs, if there was one, could be included? I'm thinking obviously Beat It would be the most obvious, Dangerous, In the Back. What about Superfly Sister? There's so many opportunities. What are your thoughts? What boxing related Michael Jackson songs can you think of? It'd be cool if this was true, but we shall see. So our next story is, oh dear, it's an opinion piece from the Jewish News. So it's not necessarily about Michael, but it does mention him in not a very nice way. So, appreciating the genius of an anti-Semite. Following an apology issued by Roald Dahl's family for his anti-Semitism, Rabbi Pinchas Hackenbrock reflects on valuing the art of hateful people. And yes, they are including Michael Jackson as a hateful person, unfortunately. So this is regarding the recent kind of discovery of an anti-Semite remark made by Roald Dahl, and the fact that the family, the estate, have apologised for this. So this article is about separating the art from the artist, and obviously we had a lot of that when Leaving Neverland came out, and the mainstream media were trying to cancel Michael Jackson, which just didn't happen. But here's the Michael Jackson reference. So it says here, following the release of the film Neverland, which documented serious accusations of child abuse. Well, it didn't. It documented fictional accounts. Many ardent fans of Michael Jackson now refuse to play his music. Well, that's simply not effing true, and we know this not to be true, and we know that even people that weren't fans of Michael Jackson, once they have looked into Leaving Neverland and all the lies have been exposed and they've done their own research, they're now coming back to Michael and appreciating his art. His figures show that, the streaming stats show that as well. It's just really disappointing that this article includes that. It also talks about Johnny Depp and the fact that Amber Heard produced credible evidence in court to support her side of the story, which was just a load of bollocks as well. So yes, just disappointing. This just simply is not true. Many ardent fans of Michael Jackson are still playing his music. We need to stop this narrative that Michael Jackson has been cancelled. He hasn't. Michael Jackson, if anything, has been rejuvenated after that steaming pile of shit. Okay, so on to ultimateguitar.com. Steve Lukather, is that how you pronounce his name? It names Michael Jackson's song that's basically a Toto song with Michael singing. Now, we know what that's going to be, Human Nature, but it also includes some really cool information about the Thriller recording session. So let's scroll down. Where are we? How cool was it to play with Michael Jackson? He says, great, I did it a bunch and it was really cool. He used to hang out with Paik all the time, who was always really nice to us. I mean, I was the same age as him. I'm a silly dude, but we weren't really like buddies. I was like, hey Michael, how's it going? And he would be, yeah, great, I like that part. We weren't like hanging out after hours. And then apparently he played acoustic guitar on Beat It. I played everything on that record except for the solos, everything, all the guitar parts. Porcaro played drums. I did Human Nature, which is basically a Toto song. We did McCartney duet. Beat It was just me and Jeff Porcaro. We had to remake that song because they'd done another version of it. Eddie Van Halen cut the 2-inch. Somebody in Eddie's camp cut the 2-inch tape and made it impossible for them to sync back up. I didn't know that. So you and Eddie weren't in the studio together to do that? He says, no, we actually put it together afterwards, Eddie and Michael's lead vocals. They said there was a technical error. I'd never heard about this. It sounds like they effectively had to redo Beat It using Eddie and Michael's parts. Interesting. If you know anything else about this, leave a comment below. I'd like to find out more. Okay, so really good story. I think this is my favourite story today. Hayley Featherstone's mesmetastic, what a word, lighting designs for Cole Lights. This is really cool. Cole Children's Museum, a cornerstone of the Chicago community, launched a dazzling holiday light show. And it's especially for kids age 8 and under. It's called Co-Lights, a mesmetastic holiday lightacular, a mile-long timed entry 30-minute walking course with various interactive lighting designs. So what's this got to do with Michael Jackson? Well, he has inspired part of this lighting installation. This is just so cool. Where is it? Here we go. So Featherstone says her favourite section is Colour Walk, and that's inspired by Michael Jackson's Billie Jean music video and features squares of light that illuminate one for every colour of the rainbow. She says in the Billie Jean music video they're running through these squares of light. We're playing with that same motif, but I'm using it to overlap colours and show all the secondary colours of the rainbow. It's fun to see people play with their favourite colour and run around to mix it. How cool that Michael Jackson has inspired this. He would absolutely love this, don't you think? Something for children 8 and under to get inspired by and get involved with and interact with. Cool, I love this. There's a video clip with a very small section showing the Michael Jackson inspired part, and I will play that for you right now.
Wonderful.
There it is. Cool, I so want to go there. Okay, so our last story is our YouTube recommendation of the day, and it's from the MJ cast. If you haven't checked out their latest episode, please do. The boys are reunited and sounding better than ever, and they give quite a good, super cool shout out to MJ News Digest. This is their latest in their series of the Michael album Hide. This is really cool. I'll link the full video in the description below, but I'll play a little bit of it now.
Jason Malachi. We've got to do something about this. You know what? The more that I think about it, the more I think it is definitely time that the Michael album gets frozen out of the Michael Jackson catalogue.
Oh, ouch. And that's it for today's MJ News Digest. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment and subscribe because the best is yet to come.